one thing I should note about Nightmare Canyon right off the bat is that even before I uploaded the long voyage, I already started filming Escape from Nightmare Canyon because it was still sunny and it was almost a few days before autumn came, so I just started to film. Of course, I was rushing, and I was also still, like, imagining, like, how I want to go, and it was kind of a mess. Let's see if I can just wrap up my head around the story I was thinking at the time. Captain Mono and the Dracorex, the Protoceratops, they all just died in the waterfall. Like, they were just supposed to die. I never intended for them to live at all. Noasaurus is the only one who gets separated from the rest of the group. And he ends up meeting up with the two-headed Apatosaurus, who's like this suave, cool, swashbuckling hero of Nightmare Canyon. And he also runs into this T-Rex. That T-Rex was not going to be the main villain, though. That T-Rex was just supposed to have a joke line of dialogue where Noasaurus is like, "Oh my gosh, T-Rex! So? What do you mean, so? Oh, you what? You just think that just because I'm a T-Rex means I have to be a mean, vicious predator that wants to eat you? What about you? You're a big predator too. How do I know you don't want to eat me?" So then, if the T-Rex ain't the main villain, who was the main villain of Nightmare Canyon? Well, in this movie, it was Red Dimetrodon. Huh? The reason I made Dimetrodon such a jerk in that first movie was because I planned for him to be the main villain of Escape from Nightmare Canyon. Of course, how is Red Dimetrodon gonna be the villain? He's so small. Even if he does do Dimetrodon rat food, they could just flick him. The same reason why I didn't use any of my Elasmosauruses, because again, they're squishy, gummy, tiny ones. I just gave him an army of dragons from another dimension, and those would just chase down our main heroes and all that. Also, one of the Stegosauruses, I can't remember if it was the open-mouthed one or the closed-mouthed one. One of them would get killed by Dilophosaurus because they found out he was a traitor working against them. But then the others found out and they kicked him out. And yeah, then the Dragon King shows up, tells all the other dragons to stop listening to Dimetrodon, and they kill Dimetrodon. And that was the movie. Apatosaurus finds them the exit and they leave. If I stuck with that script, that movie would have been an absolute disaster. But thankfully, I looked at this movie and said, "Wow, this sucks!" And I just scrapped it. And I was gonna refilm, but I couldn't, because at that point, autumn had come, and it was too cold to go out and film. Which was honestly a very good thing, because at that point, it allowed me to actually upload The Long Voyage on my birthday, November 3rd, 2020, and that allowed me to get all the feedback and hear everyone's thoughts of what they wanted in the second movie, and like all the advice they gave me, which heavily inspired me to just how I should redo the next movie when summer came. Which we had to wait a whole year. I had a whole year to basically just plan out what I wanted. I even watched the original, all the segments in Nightmare Canyon in order to just get an idea of how it's supposed to go. And I'm like, oh yeah, that's how it should be. Not that garbage that I came out with a few months ago. And then once it was sunny and hot enough for me to go out and film, I got to work. Now at that point, I had Kevin with me. So every time I went, so then basically this movie took place in the park. So I packed up all of the necessary characters in one big bag. It was a very heavy bag and it was kind of hurting my back as I carried it on my back. As well as Kevin with me, who wasn't making it any easier because it was so sunny he wanted to move around. He was just crawling around me all over the place and I'm like, Kevin, please stop moving. You're making it difficult for me to move. And then I got to the park. This movie took me like a whole week to film like all the necessary footage because it's a public playground. There's gonna be, and it's summer, kids are gonna show up and they're gonna see this army of dinosaur toys and they're gonna be like, they want to touch, they want to play with them. And yeah, that was basically, there was a lot of distractions basically. And of course I had Kevin with me. Every time I bring Kevin to the park, they're like, is it real? And they want to pet him and touch him and they ask questions and all that. So there was a lot of distractions. It got to the point where I actually had to bring Baleen the Brachiosaurus with me just to distract the other kids, because the bigger the dinosaur, the more they want to go to the big dinosaur. They don't want the little ones. So then there was a lot of filming. You could even see there's certain passages of time, like certain filming spots are like brighter than others. You can tell like when I filmed in the morning or the evening and stuff like that. I think I did have to do a few reshoots even this time around. Like the part where they helped Dimetrodon escape, I filmed that twice. I don't remember why. I think it's because I wanted to include Kevin the second time. The first time I didn't include him, second time I wanted to include him, so I filmed that twice. Also, maybe it's because, like, Dimetrodon was still, like, just in a cage, but there was no cage, so it looked kind of dumb how he couldn't just escape. Another thing I should mention is, like, I used this filming on my Samsung phone, which was so much better to use because there's just so many better camera options that iPhone just messes up. So I'm very happy with that. And that's pretty much up with filming. Everything else, in terms of editing, it's pretty much the same as the first movie because, again, I was using iMovie. I didn't have my Windows laptop just yet. One thing I forgot to mention is how I do the audio. Like my voices and stuff. I don't do the voices when I'm out in there because there'll be a lot of wind and screaming, which I tend to mute down later on. What I did do instead, what I do is I have this microphone, I speak into that over the footage, but then while I'm filming, because I don't write scripts, I say the dialogue in my head, thinking that I'll remember. But then when I when I put the footage onto the computer and line them all up, I completely forget what I said during that scene. So then most of the times, I'm just looking at a scene, I'm like, wait, what was I supposed to say in that scene? And it's just a bit of a mess, which causes, and because it's like, that seems like a lot of work. I don't want to do this right now, which led me to procrastinate both this movie and the last movie. So yeah, I guarantee that even for this audio right here, I would procrastinate because I just look at all the stuff that I would have to do, and I'm like, I don't want to work with that right now. So yeah, that's basically my messed up process. Like, do not copy how I do this video. Write a script, come up with an idea of what you want to say, so that when you're filming, you know exactly what you're going to say, and it'll go much smoother. For me, it just took a very long time because I didn't write any scripts down. What voice actors did I have in this movie? Okay. Indominus Rex came back. Gaming Utah Raptor came back to voice the Protoceratops. Some stupid sketch show guy, again, for Diplocaulus. New Orca came around to voice some of the raptors, because at this point, he was now like one of the boys. Before it was just me and Indominus. Now it's me, Indominus, and Orca. Actually, no, it's Indominus, Orca, and I think I'm the least popular of the three now. I used to be like the guy with the most subs, but now I have the least subs. Oh, I don't think I got any of the, I didn't have like that many voice actors this time around. It was the only new one was New Orca. Everyone else was just like a character that voiced previously. Yeah, that was basically it. Okay, in the first 2 minutes, you meet Amanda, who just shows up out of nowhere. Now, I should probably give an explanation for Amanda, and like, there's a big story behind Amanda. First of all, I had a lot of people requesting that they wanted the Elasmosaurus or some sort of Plesiosaur in the movie, since we didn't get one in the first movie. And unfortunately, my most recent Plesiosaur was Amanda here. The Plesiosaur, it's very small, not really threatening, not really a good villain idea. And again, we had the Mosasaurus, there really wasn't a point. But then I thought, there's this little funny video I made.
You guys want me to say ara-ara?
Yes.
You guys want me to say ara-ara?
Did I stutter?
Ara-ara?
Wait! You left before I finished doing my thing.
I watched you go on for 20 minutes!
I didn't finish!
I decided, you know what? This character is sticking with that personality. And I just threw her into the movie. I wasn't sure how people were going to respond to her. I didn't know if they were going to like her, if they were going to hate her. And I was prepared that if people didn't like her, then in the third movie, I would just have her say, I'm Amanda. People didn't like me in the second movie, so I'm just going to spontaneously combust and cease to exist. And then she would just explode. Thankfully, there didn't seem to be any problems with Amanda. One person, Lorianosaurus, really liked Amanda. And, so yes, and then which led her to have a very big role in the third movie. So I'm very glad that I was able to have one of my original characters just be a part of the movie and be a part of the cast. That made me very happy. Another character, Captain Mono. Again, I always planned for Captain Mono to just die on the waterfall, along with the other random dinosaurs that came out of the Mosasaurus' belly. But I actually had a few comments saying, I want to see more of Captain Mono now. It was probably because he was voiced by Sketchy and he's talked like a pirate, so that made him a very unique character. So, Captain Mono stayed as well. And man, I'm very glad about that decision because he amplifies the lore of Nightmare Canyon, just giving it like he used to be a member of Nightmare Canyon, but then he left to sail a life of sea, and then he joined up. He had friends here, and that's how they're able to know anything about Nightmare Canyon without Apatosaurus just suddenly showing up and explaining everything, because Captain Mono's already here and he's already explaining everything, and they already know Captain Mono. So yay, Captain Mono and Amanda, 2 original characters that I made up and made a big splash in these movies. Another thing, I remember Lorianosaurus said that the Tropiognathus brothers in the first movie were absolutely pointless and had no reason to exist. So I'm like, okay, challenge accepted, and I gave them a point in this movie. At that point, I decided that they would also be working with Dilophosaurus. Before, they were just random birds who just showed up and just said, hey, you suck. But then in this movie, I decided, you know what? No, let's give them a role. Because again, from that feedback, again, that's what I'm saying. The feedback from the first movie really amplified the performance of these next 2 movies. So I gave them the role of accidentally knocking Dilophosaurus into the water so that he won't go over the waterfall as well. Another big thing, people wanted to see Red Dimetrodon, like again, people wanted to see Red Dimetrodon. I'm not sure if they wanted him to reform or not. Maybe it's Dilophosaurus, which I'll get to in a minute. But I do remember they wanted Dimetrodon to be better. So again, in this movie, I made him better. He goes through a redemption arc. He starts to see the error of his way, and thanks to Diplodocus, he starts to become a better person. This movie is mostly about Red Dimetrodon, hence the reason he and Diplodocus are in the thumbnail, as opposed to Noasaurus, who is supposed to be the main character. I really like how I was able to like branch off Diplodocus and Dimetrodon into their own little subplot in the movie, and then that's how the Apatosauruses get involved with it. Let's talk about the Apatosauruses for a second here, because that's a character that's very different from the original counterpart, again. Because so the main Apatosaurus, the big one, he's actually the villain of Sodor's Dinosaurs. Again, no association with the 2-headed Apatosaurus from A Dinosaur Story. This guy was known as Evil Apatosaurus. He was the main villain, except he was kind of incompetent. As you can see, if you've watched any episode of Sodor's Dinosaurs, you see he's not very good. He loses to James while fighting over a cookie. But again, just like Dimetrodon and Lunatic, I had grown very attached to that character, and I decided to just make him the good character, the Apatosaurus in this movie. And I wasn't about to glue another Apatosaurus to his head, plus that just sounds like a pain to work with in general. So I just stuck it onto his back and said that the explanation is that the smaller one's heart is fused to the bigger one's spine. And his voice is heavily inspired by King Ghidorah from, again, Monster Island Buddies. We also introduced Kurlov, which I thought I came up with that name myself, but apparently it's from Ninjago. There is a Russian character named Kurlov from Ninjago as well. So, I'm not that original after all. I mean, I'm making a whole behind the scenes about a remake of a childhood favorite movie. So yeah, who am I to call myself original? Anyway, I always looked at that raptor and I always thought, wouldn't it be fun to just give him a Russian accent? And that's what I did. I made him like the leader of the Velociraptor pack. Which, again, I do know that there's no evidence of raptors actually hunting in real life, but this isn't meant. These are talking dinosaurs living all together on a couch boat. So reality is a lie in this world. And they all work together for the Queen, the epic roaring T-Rex. Now, before this, my only T-Rex was the Thrash and Throw, and I hated the Thrash and Throw at this point because it just kept falling over and it was just an absolute pain to work with. The jaw, you have to bend it down to work the jaw, and sometimes it won't work. It's like, infuriating. This epic roaring one is so much better because it's like I can move the head left, right, up, down, and then just rotate rotate it around. And there's a button to open the mouth, so I can just press that button. It'll roar. So much better to work with. It was an absolute treat using the epic roaring T-Rex for this movie. Okay, I want to talk about my biggest regret for this movie, and that's the waterfall segment. Now, I do like the waterfall segment that I added in the movie, but it's like one of my favorite scenes in the original Hoops and Dino Man movie is the waterfall scene. I remember when I was little, I would replay that scene over and over and over again because I just thought it was the funniest thing to exist. Just seeing all these dinosaur toys getting chucked down the stairs, And that was so much fun that my brother and I just started doing that with our own dinosaur toys, and we just chucked a lot of dinosaur toys down our stairs. Now, unfortunately, I couldn't do that for this movie because I couldn't find a way to naturally incorporate that scenery into like, from the transition from those stairs into Nightmare Canyon. And secondly, even if I could find a way, my stairs have very bad lighting because there's two big walls in front of them, so sunlight does not come through to those stairs, so it would not look very good on camera. So unfortunately, I did have to cut it and replace it with this much shorter, not as funny scene where the couch just bounces around and a bunch of dinosaurs just fall off, and there's a sign saying Nightmare Canyon. It's fine, but it definitely does. It will never be as funny as that scene to like 5-year-old me watching that movie and just laughing his head off as watching a bunch of dinosaur toys just fall off the stairs while the Wilhelm scream just repeats. I also like the Queen's first scene where we just come across the Dracorex and the Protoceratops, and then the Queen just shows up and eats them. We don't even get to see the Queen, we just see her shadow. And that just shows off like there's a threat here in Nightmare Canyon. Well, then again, Captain Mono already said there's a threat here in Nightmare Canyon, but now we see just what that threat is. That's something I like. How the sun was so bright, I was able to utilize the shadow of the T-Rex instead of just showing it off right away. That I really liked. Another scene that I found absolutely hilarious in the first movie was the maze scene, where Noasaurus is saying, here, and the T-Rex is just like trying to get him, and it just can't. H-E-A-R, that sort of thing. That was another scene that I played just over and over again because I loved it so much. I didn't have that here. Instead, I just had Noasaurus run away from a bunch of raptors. Well, just 4 raptors. Of course, I did have some... I did get this one, I would say, is like... I still like it, though, compared to, like... Because it's, like, different. And I'm not trying to copy that scene because I don't... Again, there was no way I was going to be able to do it in this wide open space, but I did make use of the playground itself to get some pretty clever scenes where Nosaurus climbs up a wall, then he jumps down the slide. Yeah. Oh, that takes me back to like videos on my old channel where I would just take my Thomas toy, like Ninja James, that was the one, where I took them outside and I just had slow motion shots of dinosaurs just falling to their deaths, and then James also falling to his death. And dinosaurs just tumbling down the hill and all that. We also have this nighttime scene where Dilophosaurus is like he can't sleep because someone's making noise. That's Daryl. It's part of the plan. He was just trying to lure Dilophosaurus away in a convincing way. In fact, you can even hear Dilophosaurus saying, "What? Oh, it's just you," because he knows who this is. And then he gets attacked by Allosaurus Kyoya, which is the Allosaurus from Ceratosaurus' backstory. Not much to say here. I just thought it was a better explanation than just he eats one of the herd members because it's like, and then he gets banished. Because that's like, well, it just shows he's already, well, I mean, I'm not sure like how to describe it, because it's like in this version he has like a legit, they actually feel sad because it's like like by the time he's already revealed who he is, it's like, oh, but he was already the bad guy and stuff. I don't know. I'm not making sense. I just like this reason for him leaving the herd, faking his death, rather than just eating someone and getting kicked out. One thing I will find funny, when this happened, a lot of people actually thought Dilophosaurus died when watching this movie. And then they actually thought Dilophosaurus was just gone for good. And I'm like, no, he's not. He's still alive. Even at the end credits, you can see he's still alive. Some people didn't even see Dilophosaurus underneath Daryl's wing at the end, like at the post-credit scene. They thought that Daryl was gonna be the main villain. Or maybe I'm remembering that wrong. Now, one thing I should mention, Manda in Monster Island Buddies is a boy, except this one is a girl. This plesiosaurus is a girl, so her name is Amanda. So, funny. Another thing, this really kicks off how Saltosaurus is her reality is starting to crumble because, one, there's a plesiosaurus just walking around. She's like, how are you still alive? We are nowhere near water. And then Amanda's just like, I'm Amanda. I'm actually a crossbreed between a Mamentosaurus and a Lipleurodon. Oh, and the Tropiognathus brothers come back, confirming that the body, because that's a T-Rex skeleton they're standing over. But then at this point, they're trying to convince them, no, this is the Dilophosaurus skeleton. Because, of course, only Saltosaurus catches on that something's up. But then these guys are still like, no, this is the Dilophosaurus. He's dead. We're just picking up the meat off of his dead body. We didn't kill him and stuff like that. We also have our rematch with Kyoya and Ceratosaurus here. And then there's like this little standoff and they both attack each other and then Ceratosaurus immediately starts losing. Then the others just start backing him up and they start fighting Allosaurus, Kyoya, and then he just gets away. Mostly because they ran into the queen and he's just like, no, I don't want to mess with that. So, I guess I could have had a way where, they actually kill Kyoya, and that's, like, justice for the wife. And I think I planned to bring him back for the third movie, but I really couldn't find a way to, like, naturally incorporate him into the plot. So I just left him out of the third movie, and just, like, well, I guess he just stayed alive. But I guess it's not, like, that important. Like, sometimes villains do get away with things, and there's nothing you can really do about it. It's not like, because Ceratosaurus did manage to stand up to him with the rest of his friends, and I guess that was like the main thing. And then of course that's when the Dilophosaurus dies, because again, I never planned for him to live. He was just cannon fodder to die. Also, this is funny. I'm a weapon now. I don't know why I came up with that. I just did. Just Alan Slasher doing something cool and using Amanda being Amanda just saying just random stuff as usual. And then we come to like the breakout scene where they're trying to break out Dimetrodon, and of course there's like a lot of dialogue between all the raptors, and it's a it's like a non-stop conversation between New Orca, myself, and Indominus Rex 01, which is basically a mini episode of Carnivorous Conversations if you want to see it that way. Because all the raptors are just like talking about how they're all exactly the same and they all sound different though. And then that's when Kevin shows up and then wins by doing absolutely nothing. Because he's Kevin. I didn't plan to bring him back because I wasn't sure how people would react to, like, again. I like, every time I did something in this movie, I'm like, are people actually gonna like this? What if they hate it? Is this a good idea? Only to be proven absolutely wrong when everyone absolutely loves it. Like, not everyone, but it's like the majority. Everyone's like, they all had good things to say. So it's like I'm always worrying for nothing because again, the main outcome is very positive. And yeah, this was the introduction of Diplocaulus' Ultra form, which is basically the Diplovenator, a hybrid between Conchovenator and Diplocaulus Gen 2. And he uses the JoJo music and he goes, "Roar," and he just wipes out all of the raptors. And then Kevin just boogers off. He just leaves. Also, when Diplocaulus goes to hug Dimetrodon, that wasn't scripted. That was actually just the camera. For some reason, the AR just suddenly started acting glitchy, and Diplocaulus just started moving, and he ended up on top of Red Dimetrodon. And I'm like, oh, that was an accident. But I'm glad it happened, because I can totally use that. There are also plenty of shots with Kevin with his mouth open. That just shows how hot it was that day. Because when Kevin is at maximum temperature, he opens his mouth to say, ah, I'm very relaxed right now. Another thing, the reason I keep saying Diplocaulus can only take his Ultra form once a month is because just so that there's no one asking why he doesn't just bring it up later on in the movie. Because it's like, because he can't. He used it up for this moment here. Just trying to come up with my own ways of avoiding plot holes. And then the rest of the movie is a big old chase down with the queen and the raptors chasing the herd. One thing I actually just remembered, Captain Mono, this thing where everyone just calls him Mono, and he's like, he's offended by this, because he's like, no, it's Captain Mono. So he's always like, it's Captain. You have to remember to say Captain. And then we get to the bit where we get to, like, first of all, Red Dimetrodon really breaks through, because Diplocaulus' words really touched him, and he's really learned to, like, be a better dinosaur, like, a better creature. Ooh, nearly triggered him again. So he actually, he tries to stand up to the queen, but of course he's very small, so it doesn't go too well. Arms is the only one who's strong enough to actually knock the queen down, but not before the queen grabs his tail and, takes him with him. With her. Sorry, the queen's a girl. Obviously, duh, queen. And then of course this heavily affects Red Dimetrodon, who's like, he's been wanting them all to, he's hated these dinosaurs all his life, and he's wanted them to die. And then finally, one dies, but it's the moment he changes and he wants them all to live, and now it just crushes him. And everyone is like very sad about Arms' death. Arms is really the only main character who like dies. Again, Baleen doesn't count, she died in like the first act. But I really like how I handled it. It's very dramatic. And of course, everyone's reaction was again, no, why did you kill him? Why is he dead? So I got the point across. So I'd say I did a good job with handling his demise. Okay, in this movie, in terms of music, a lot less Laputa music, I added one extra Nausica music. Actually, I used different music this time. I used Kusara Umi, Requiem, and Tani Heno Michi. I still use a little bit of Hunter x Hunter music. I still use a lot of Hunter x Hunter music. What the heck? There's still so much. I'm looking at the credits and I'm reading, and Hunter x Hunter, how many times did I use that music for this movie? Both of these movies, honestly. A bunch of Sodor themes actually no, only 2. I use, Carcharodontosaurus' theme is Duck's theme. I forgot to mention that one. I used the Danger theme for when Dilophosaurus dies. That's it. Oh wait, I also used Lily Travels to Sodor from the Magic Railroad in one of the scenes as well. Not that much A Hat in Time, just crazy to just look at all this music and see how much it varies. And most of the music should have been from, if I'm looking at this right, yes I am, Little Nightmares 1 and 2. Although I think Hunter x Hunter might be tied with it. Ooh, it might even be more. Because this movie was meant to be the more, like carnivores, survival, creepy-esque. I used a lot of Little Nightmares music, and Little Nightmares has an abundance of good music that I love using, so of course, I used just a ton of music. I also used Darkwing Duck's theme for Dark-Winged Al, for his little theme song, his little sing-song thing. And that's really it. That's the end of Escape from Nightmare Canyon. This one was a bit more complicated, seeing how you heard how it was originally going to be, and compared to how it turned out. So yeah, I would say, and again, once it was uploaded, people like this one even more than the first one, and it's like, whoa, people like this one a lot. And then, like, this was the best one at the time. There wasn't exactly that much constructive feedback this time around, because there really wasn't that much people had any problem with. I think there was only one person who said that there wasn't enough, like, wow-inspiring shots, but that's because they were a photographer, so of course, they're an expert in that kind of thing, so it makes sense. But for the most part, everyone really loved it. I cannot think of a single negative comment on this movie. And now we get, then that ends Escape from Nightmare Canyon, and we move on to The Future is Wild, which has the biggest production history. Like, I already said that this one was already more complex than the first one, and this third one is even more complex than this one. Like, oh my gosh, let's get started.
Lots of crazy adventures that you don't get to see. Sorry, not sorry.
Meanwhile, at the Krusty Krab.
I'm Amanda. I'm a parody of Monster Island Buddies Manda.
I'm Manda. We were in Destroy All Monster together. Nothing?
I think now would be a good time to panic!
That now is the time to panic!
This is all fine.
This is all fine.
Wait! What about the angry little red dude?
Wait! You left before I finished doing my thing.
Huh, what'd I tell you, boss? More than enough food to feed our queen!
Yeah, look, boss, the kid's taping us.
Come on, man. No one lives forever.
Come on, man. Nobody lives forever.
What is it? Oi, do you mind? I'm speechifying. That's better.
Show yourself. I'm dying to meet you.
Oh, werewolf shadow, come be after me!
Arr! We booty snatchers are gathered here today to celebrate the life and mourn the death of our friend, Dilophosaurus.
We booty snatchers are all gathered here today to celebrate the life and mourn the death of Golden the Big Engine.
That hurts! Stop it hurting us!
Ow, my esophagus.
Oh, way older than that, actually.
No.
Let's get dangerous!
Let's get dangerous.
Banana Slammer!
I'm know is right. The danger is
Well, maybe
coming.
it would have been smarter for us to stand and
I didn't finish! I watched you go on for 20 minutes! I didn't finish!
Long live the Queen!
Long live the king.
Wait, what do you... No!
He's dead! And I care! What is the deal?
They'll be destroyed. And I care! What is the deal?
But once again, that's a story for another day.
But that is a story for another day.
Hey guys, thanks for watching the video from beginning to end. If you want to see more, subscribe to the channel and join the Zainreborn community. See you in the next one. Bye-bye. Bye. Bye.